Thanks for being here, Chad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So you're aware of the title of the podcast, right?
Yep,
So.
WTF IDK.
Close, yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic. So
Perfect.
I never give you a phone number because I'll put it backwards.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so we were definitely here for I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you are one of our first guests, and we're really excited to talk to you today because we're here recording at Thrive Workplace in Centennial. And Chad here is the guy who pretty much created this whole brand and also this location, which is pretty new, right?
This is new, but because of COVID, it feels like we haven't opened yet. But we are open. Yeah. We opened. We were supposed to open in May, and then it was July, and then we kind of just opened. Wait for that right moment.
We're in a long soft opening.
Yeah. So the marketing was a little bit off from everything. So we're gonna probably do a big push here and
Which I know a lot of people in January 2021 are just like, let's start a business.
Let's get 2020 on track here.
Yeah. Well, also, it's all about continuing business, right? Because here, people who are not aware what a co-working or co-space is, can you kind of tell our viewers and listeners what that is?
Well, kind of the best description I have is like you either have like a coffee shop where you meet people, maybe do homework, or you're a college student, or just meet in general, right? And then you got this stuffy executive office space, either corporate or kind of that Regis model. We're kind of trying to combine the two where you actually want, because you want to be in a coffee shop, right? You got energy, you got, like good coffee and everything like that, but it's just, you don't have a conference room or you need to print something or bad internet, such sort like that. So they're trying to combine them together to make the really flexible option for not only entrepreneurs and freelancers, but small business teams and even enterprise clients that needs kind of like that employee retention, happiness kind of community together. So it's kind of like a coffee shop killer and a traditional office space killer. We're just really trying to be flexible for a lot of people needing space.
And me, personally, I find it so much more welcoming. Like, especially as an entrepreneur, I've definitely had a million coffee shop meetings where we're trying to schedule like, hey, where do you want to meet up? Well, there's a Panera, 525, or there's this place, or there's that place, and then you've got to make sure you get a table and a seat. And it can get overly tedious. And so just being here, that has that same feel, but it's quiet enough to record a podcast. Yeah. Or you can have like actual private meetings, where like you can really dive into private topics and not have the whole public sphere hear you.
That or even connecting to people, because like in a coffee shop, you know people, but you're not going to be like, hey, like I'm having this problem with business. It's kind of like taboo. But for a co-working site, everyone's really like, hey, how'd your day go? Or how'd your week go? Or I'm having a problem with this, or I need a connection.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet, asking my barista some business strategy questions.
Getting your coffie like, so do you know any top talent CFOs? You're like, I don't know. So that's really interesting.
So what brought you to start the co-working space here at Thrive?
It was actually coffee shops in some facet or another. So my story kind of becomes, I say that I'm a recovering architect. So I went to school for architecture, worked for the man of architecture firms in Minnesota for like 3-4 years. Decided that it just wasn't my thing. And then I moved out here to start my own design company. And then after a couple of years from that, it's still kind of the same thing. I'm always looking for the next project. It's always that guilt and all that. So you want residual income, right? Or something where you can be proud of and kind of like let it just, amaze at it. So because of that experience, starting my own company out in Colorado, moved from Minnesota to Colorado. I don't know if I said that. But just coming out here, trying to start my own business, how do I market this? Or legal or HR, like hiring people. It's just like all these, I don't fucking know moments, right? Yeah. So then because of that, then, we worked at home and then we got a duplex together and that didn't really work well. And then we did coffee shops. We finally did the Regis models. And then we did co-working. Nothing really seemed to fit what we really needed. Yeah. So kind of egotistical architect like myself, recovering architect, I was like, I can do this way better. Yeah. So just from our experiences, this is me and my brother, by the way, we both started together, really started at first. And he kind of came on board.
I just want to reiterate that because that's my favorite story that entrepreneurs say is they've tried all these different things and then they're finally just so sick of not finding what exactly they're looking for, and it's just saying I can do this better. and then doing it, and then it's successful. And I just think that's the most awesome thing ever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of, I just
cool to
wish
hear.
I had someone to talk me through like all the experiences, you know, like,
But-
or say someone who was a coworker, you know.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, right? There's no one there to talk you through it.
Yeah.
You know, because you're trying to do something slightly different.
Feel a little alone.
Yeah.
Am I doing this right?
It is lonely.
I'm crazy, right?
Yeah,
And I think that
that's what I'm saying.
crazy
Yeah.
thought, you know, and just being like, is this a crazy thing for me to do? Am I crazy thinking I could do this? Is it crazy to ask for this amount of money from investors, right? Those, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Can I be trusted with these things that I'm going to do?
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're getting money from investors. So can we touch a little bit on that? Because you're in many locations in Colorado. Centennial is just one of 5, is that right?
Four
Four.
total.
Yeah, probably work into 10, right?
Hopefully.
But you have investors that really worked with you from the beginning in different stages.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit of that mindset and that fear that really went into being like, here's my pitch, give me money, and sign the paperwork.
Where do I begin? Because there's like moments in your cycle where you love them, you hate them, you love them, you hate them. So yeah, we kind of stumbled across it, to be honest. So like the first couple times we did, I mean, it was like a Home Depot card that was maxed out every weekend because we kind of funded ourselves. And then when we wanted to get bigger, we realized, yeah, we do need some help. So then you're in that area, like, what do you do? So, like, banks usually want to see, like, 2 years of tax info before they give you substantial money. So you're like, do you wait? Do you
Or even
bootstrap
not
this?
substantial money.
Or, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
anything.
You know,
Here's
SBAs,
$500.
you know, SBA loans were all like,
They
yeah,
want-
great. And then at the end, you're like, nope. Like, okay. And then you're just back at the drawing board.
After
so.
6 months of them diving into every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So when we first met our investors, we were at Cherry Creek spot. That was like our second location. That was like the big. So we went from 3,000 square feet, testing the model out. Okay, let's see if we got this. So we went 9,000 square feet, which back then seemed like a big deal. Like 9,000, I can't do this in Home Depot credit card. It's like, how are we gonna do this? And like more rent, you know, and more members. So we actually put up the sign in our building, and then one gentleman had the same name as our what's called Thrive Real Estate. So we're like, oh yeah, I thought, you know, I have the same name.
Yeah.
And we got to talk, and then all of a sudden it was like they was really interested in the idea. Told a couple of his friends, and we got to talk, and then all of a sudden we got our first 3 investors.
Wow. Okay.
Really great, right?
That's really like
yeah.
serendipitous.
Very
almost.
serendipitous.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, the funny part too was all about timing, right? So like when we first opened, you know, we obviously needed more money than we needed. So we're bootstrapping it. In fact, we bootstrapped it so much where me and my brother put on tool belts at 5 p.m. till about 10 p.m. for almost a year straight. I mean, we had to take some weeks off, or it was a weekend.
Yeah.
So for Cherry Creek, we got our CEO that had no offices or nothing, just to open. So we can at least have our 10 members come in.
Yeah.
And then we started building each office every week or weekend. We built 27 offices in a training room during that year that we were open.
Yeah.
So it was very, like, we were there.
So you're literally hands-on,
we were
right?
very hands-on.
Yeah, that's cool because your architecture background.
Yep,
so you
and
kinda
then my
knew
brother's
how to
in
build.
construction management, so he's a contractor too. So we, you know, serendipity, so many things with that. So like because of that, we thought of a better way to build our walls. Like these walls right here, they're modular. We knew how to prevent sound, and then we could put electricity and data cables in there very easily, take them down really easily.
Yeah.
So because of that experience, without that, I don't know if we could have learned a better way of the system that we invented.
Okay.
It's not too
Yeah.
crazy, but at
Yeah.
least how we can build it for far cheaper and more flexible.
Yeah.
So it's always taken those like painful tears, you know, blood, sweat, and tears into it, and kind of
Right.
making it.
And that was one of my favorite quotes out there, is I forget who actually said it, but it's the things that you're ready for are ready for you. And so with that, like, first investor just having the same name, I think that's one of those situations where it just
Yeah,
happens. And then, you know, you've got the background and having to do the trial and error to just make it faster and easier so you can actually get it done
yeah,
means you innovated in a way that a lot of other people haven't. Because it's, right?
yeah. And then I'm just even thinking, because of where we're trying to get investment in, because we didn't know where, you know, we were partners with Rocky's Venture Club, and they like kind of, you know, you got to make sure you have an exit strategy. Like, what what's an exit strategy?
Yeah, what's that?
Do we need one? Do we really need one? You know, I kind of want an exit, but I kind of don't. Like, no, it's not going to work this way. And because of that, we want our members to know that we have that partnership, because it is no man's land. You you meet some wrong, weird guy, and I'll just put you in this rabbit hole. That's actually, even when we first started, we met a couple guys that said, hey, give me this money, I'll guarantee you get this investment. And then a month later, no one knows where he is, or all this kind of stuff. I still don't know where he went or anything like that.
So they said, give me money.
Yeah, so basically it was kind of like one of those investor brokers, or like, hey, I'll work on the business plan with you, and I'll present this to investors and all this. We even looked him up, and he was fine or legit.
Yeah.
Thank God we did that early, but it's still a lot of money back in that early time.
Yeah.
So again, it's one of those, I guess because of that I have trust issues, and that's why I want to have like a good source, like there's no BS. It's like, this is what it is.
So I see here, it's interesting because you come from an architecture, and your brother and you come from building and construction, right? And I find that if you've ever done remodeling on your home or anything, you realize when you take down a wall, you're going to find nothing you expected. And so you have to do all sorts of different problem solvings, and you have no idea what you're doing. You have to go back and forth from Home Depot like 5,000 or 6,000 times in a day. But I like this analogy in that this is exactly what you guys were doing. You would get to the next stage, and all of a sudden you're just like, And so now I need to find all these answers, and people are even like in a way swindling you. And so it's very interesting that how this analogy is kind of continuing through your journey.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can take that if they've done any kind of remodeling.
Just like any
themselves.
remodel, some guy comes in there, it's going to be, $6,000 like, and then someone asks me like, no, it'll probably be like $1,000 to do, tile in your bathroom, not $6,000.
Yeah.
So it's just that experience, and that's, we try to position ourselves for our experience to have the best experience and kind of a trusted services we can say, we've been through here.
Which you have increased your services too. It's
We
not
have.
just holding space and having community space, but it's also business resources.
Yeah, that's kind of something that was really fun to watch. So like when we first started, we were masters at the real estate, right? We knew kind of like, for me, I love the aesthetics and design, like how people work through the space, the psychology of it, and then just I want to make it look amazing.
Yeah.
It's warm but not corporate, that kind of thing. But as we were kind of continuing our Thrive journey, we were just such kind of a point of contact, like, hey, I got this problem where I need to connect to this. And that just was kind of our community, is that we were just a business support for you. So because of that, then we got partnerships and we got referrals, but it was so chaotic that we actually started organizing our services into like an hourly, you can meet them instead of like, I know a guy.
Right.
You trust now, I got a guy, here's a database, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we're finally unveiling that out a little bit more. Pretty flexible too. So admin services to like, I need, 3,000 letters of stamp to some invoicing to I need a CFO.
Yeah.
Not your barista.
Yeah, I was going to
Kind
say,
of question.
Not the barista, like,
all the other stuff the coffee shop doesn't give.
but at the same time, we are that barista, like, how'd your day go?
You have some pretty good coffee, not gonna lie.
I will.
All good.
I was amazed actually because it's always that watered down terrible coffee,
Folgers.
and I'm like, well, this will get me through it, and then every sip is like.
we did a test because we felt the same way. So we partnered with In Coffee just because I like In Coffee a lot, and I got to know the guy, and so we did it, and then some people didn't realize we were using ink, so we just put Folgers in one day and be like, how's the coffee? And it was true, like, something's wrong with your coffee. It's not just like
people do pay attention.
So I was like, well, maybe people don't pay attention. But that day, I was like, okay. Yeah.
Like, we'll suffer through if that's what you started with, because you just need the caffeine.
We did
Set
start
the
with
bar high.
Folgers. I'm not gonna lie, back in the early days.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to highlight what just happened here, because I don't think you're grasping it, and I really want to highlight it to the audience because I know they're feeling it. You take care to your members and your clients here at All the Thrives that you care about what kind of coffee they're having. But you have the humor behind it to be like, let's see if they even noticed.
So, and that's kind of like, I know people throw a community with CoWorking, or in general, like, we gotta create community, and then a lot of people are going like, great, is this a church community? Is this like a tech community? Is this a bro community, whatever. Like no one really knows what it is. So we do take a pretty proud stance on we really curate those communities.
Yeah.
So we do have like kind of production podcasts, community that shares some space, and we got like a hockey club in here. But in general, that whole club is kind of like this family, and that throws around too. But we like to have fun. We do like a movie quote game on Tuesdays. So right when you enter, you can't use your phone. I just rail off 3 questions, visuals, and then at the end, it's a giveaway or someone has to, put their fantasy football name to something. So stuff like that. We do like big tree cutting ceremony. So we go up to the mountains and we bring all the tools, and anyone can come and cut down a tree, even if you don't have a truck. Or like baseball, like opening day at ballpark's huge. Like basically no one works there and just kind of plays games and grills out.
Okay.
You have a tailgate party at
that one's one of our
Friday.
biggest.
That's cool.
That or the art gallery on Cherry Creek, when that big art gallery is there, since we're in the heart, we try to do some fun games, and that way I can have free beer, I guess.
Which is another amenity here.
Which is free beer.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Also good beer. So.
Good beer, yeah. That again, we always try to marry everything. So like the winner of the movie quote game gets the beer that month.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So, but yeah, so it's like we know your name, how you doing, anything we can do. I was trying to get that pulse because a lot of people even in that are like scared to say like I don't know or I'm failing or any of that. So we usually have a pretty good sense, and we hire from our values in that. So relationship builders, continuous improvement, customer service above all.
Yeah, I will say that was probably the one biggest reason I'm here is because I think it was Caitlin was the old.
Caitlin, yep. She's at Cherry Creek now.
Yeah, but she was just so nice and just so helpful with everything. And I would send an email because I work late. I don't like waking up early, so I'd send an email at like 11 p.m. and she would still reply like that. And I was like.
And that was another huge part is that
awesome.
When we started, it was just me and Charlie. So we're from Minnesota. We want to make sure everyone loves us. It's kind of a disease from Minnesota, that passive aggressive, like, you gotta love me. So we're very relationship driven.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we really thought was powerful. And so, to replicate that, you really need good hiring.
Yeah.
And so now we're like, well, how the fuck do we do that? So we, again, the first 3 hires were disasters, and we did it ourselves. We thought we were like doing this well.
At your first location?
Our first couple locations. Even Cherry Creek had some pretty bad experiences.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, okay, after the third one was really bad. We were just like, we got to do something. So then our HR lady, we just hired at that time because we were starting to hire people too. And that's a whole different story. She's like, well, let's do this company. And it was like, it wasn't percentage. It was like flat rate. Here you go. And we're like, okay, great. It's the first step we need. So it wasn't too expensive, But they did so many cool things that we kind of took away from that. So the first thing they did, maybe this is common knowledge, but it wasn't for me. They would, send all these resumes to Indeed and all this stuff. But they would do a fake number to do the phone call in, and they would weed so many people out, and only like 5 people would actually email or call her back like, hey, this phone number, this link is broken. Oh, well, you just passed the first test. Here you go.
Wow.
So
that is a good little thing.
Yeah, and that's to me like solves the problem solving skills. I just don't want someone like that doesn't work and then move on. It's like, why doesn't this work? So then what we do for our interviews is I actually replace one of the table things with a different color. And then we just say, all right, what's missing in this room? Like one of those games.
Yeah.
And then usually the people that stick around get that right away, and the people that don't stick around, they don't notice it.
You guys remember the first Men in Black movie where he puts them through and they have to do these tests, and there's all the military guys.
Yeah.
Well, he just has a cold.
He shoots the little girl. Yeah. She's in the hood with these books that are way too smart for her.
And then this monster, he's got a cold. He's got to clean it.
Oh my gosh, I have to rewatch that now.
Yeah, it's a good scene. My favorite is they're all sitting in these terribly uncomfortable chairs, and they have a pencil and they're trying to pull it out. Yeah. And so he just pulls the table.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's so loud, and they're all just glaring at him. He was like, I need a table.
That's actually a movie call games.
Work smarter, not harder. Yeah.
So that's what that reminds me of, is you're seeing who can pass these basic.
Well, because it was really important for us, that DNA, and I didn't know how to, because if you ask, they're like, or resumes, all that, but you really can't see it. And I just had such a hard problem trying to relay that message. And so me and Charlie and my brother, we're just hitting our heads like, how are we going to do this? And then that company was like, hey, this is a trick we do. And then we took that to that. Yeah. It's been really huge for us because we are pretty proud of our team. And that's the only way you can really expand. Because if we don't have someone like Kaylin here, or like she's at Cherry Creek,
could have gone somewhere else,
Exactly. It's so huge.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a big artery for each location is our team.
Yeah. And what I like is that you're really speaking to the people that are here. Like you were saying, asking questions, or they're just kind of not wanting to approach because they're not used to it, and you're engaging with them. But what's happening is that you're having a conversation with them, really, and you're getting that pulse that you mentioned. So do you get a lot of people saying, I don't know what I am doing, can you help me? Or do you know someone who can help me? Do you get a lot of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I'd say about a little bit less than half will come and reach out to say, I don't know. But the majority, like 60% of the time, that's conversation. And then it's like, well, how you doing? Like, oh, I'm doing this. They don't think that there'll be a solution or, they have to do tens of thousands of hours of research for it, where it's like, been there, go to these places.
Yeah, here you go. Here's the easy answer.
Yeah, but what I think is really cool is one of the services that you highlighted last week when we were chatting was kind of having a temp CFO and Chief Financial Officer, for those who don't know. That is extremely helpful, and it just can save or break your business if you decide to or to not engage with something like that when you really need it. So what sparked that need? Was someone was just like, hey, I'm running out of money.
Well, it's funny because when we first started, we did QuickBooks, and then we were testing out Fresh Mint, or what's that called? A couple of them. Mm-hmm. And then, we kind of just, we didn't want to pay a CFO. In fact, me personally, I didn't even know what the hell a CFO. What do you want? Are you going to tell us how to spend the money? Or,
I'm not going to pay someone to spend my money for me.
Reports to investors that don't exist yet? Or, I would say that's kind of what we hired for, here's a business plan, get investment money. But that wasn't really a CFO in my mind. Mm-hmm. So then, we're here today, actually. We have one tenant that I just found out he's a temp CFO. And I was like, oh, okay. And then before this, too, a lot of people have asked, hey, is there any temp CFOs? And we're get our buddies from our Adventure Club, hey, you temp CFOs. Mm-hmm. So again, we could, we helped on at least getting contact, but it's we can do better organized instead of 5 contacts, 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon later, you're at Joe, and you're I don't even know Joe. Mm-hmm. But Matt, for instance, is CFO, and then we're let's just, maybe we need a CFO, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah.
So we talked to him, and then again, it was great. It's all right, let's go over revenue. I'm okay, kind of going through it. But he was such strategy of hey, let's do this marketing scheme to get this up. I was oh, I didn't know CFOs even did that. Mm-hmm. And then really what it is just even when we did the deal with our investors, it would have saved us so much money if it's CFO right away. But again, I didn't think there was temp CFOs. I thought you just had to hire a Harvard CFO guy
for $200,000 a
year. Yeah, and it's well, what are you going to do? If you can build walls when you're not doing CFO, great.
Yeah.
Kind of thing like that. So, so then Matt came and was yep, this is kind of the services we provide. You just hourly, whatever you need me, bulks. And I was great. I want to use this to our members. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So now all of a sudden we're starting to get that list, and the other thing, part of the how we want to do the services, we want to vet them out. We don't want anyone going through what we experience of this crook, or you didn't tell me it was this much money, or what have you. So yeah,
I see that being extremely valuable.
Oh, it's so huge
because you're not only vetting it for your members, but it's also you can feel comfortable because giving that referral out. So what I do is I'm okay, if someone's going to send someone to me as a business coach or web designer or whatever it is, I literally tell them, I'm you better bet your entire reputation off on this person.
Yeah.
Because if I go with them, it's on you.
Yeah, well,
and so,
exactly.
So I that's basically what you're doing is we tried them, we trust them, and here's a guy if you need it, and he's right here. And part of the community, so you know where he works, you know where he lives.
Just the research for a CFO took a week or two. Mm. So all that time you could save and then work on your business.
Right.
Because to me, a co-working space and our members are very symbiotic. If they're not successful, then we're not successful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's kind of it's almost when you go into co-working, you just have another extension of your team. It's almost we're here for you. It's not we're look at these guys are suffering or
that's
anything.
the exact
like,
opposite of those corporate offices.
Yeah,
they don't care.
They don't care. You pay me rent, right? Great. If
Yeah.
not, I'll just find someone else. Like that's not really our community. When people leave, they get sad, you
Yeah.
know, or like their best friend's gone or something like that.
Oh.
So like when. Again, with our group, people not only are our staff, but even our members, like, God, you know, it seems like, you know, Joe over there is something's wrong. Mm-hmm. So then usually it's like conversation over here. Hey, Joe, let's have a beer. Like, oh yeah, I need one. Oh, it's you know, investment money didn't come in. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So without, you know, if you're in a more of a traditional lease space, you know, you might not even have that. You go to your wife, and then your wife's like, oh, ends world. But we're like, no, here.
Right.
I got, like, if you go through this person or RBC, let's go that route. They're like, oh.
Yeah. And that exact thing is exactly why we wanted to interview you, because that's so in line with what our podcast is about. Because so many entrepreneurs, they don't feel like they can say, I don't know what I'm doing, or I feel like I'm failing at this. And then they'll go to their spouse and be like, hey, I feel like I'm failing. And they're like, go back and get a job. I told you this was a bad idea.
This is going to happen. And you're like 2 weeks away from really making it.
Literally. Yeah. And being vulnerable enough and being comfortable enough to admit that, hey, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm failing to someone else. Having a safe space for that is so important.
Well, I think to kind of go off of that too, because you even saying something like, I don't know what I'm doing, go to a networking event and say that. Not a lot of people, no one is saying that. You're handing you're stabbing cards at people, right? And you're just like, you're getting a lot of cards. No one's really referring anyone, right? No one's actually getting the help they need because no one's being vulnerable in a way. Because that's when you need to show up, is when you're networking. But in a space like this, it's really much more relaxed, right? And also, I think there's a point to make, which you probably very much understand. If you're renting a space in a co-working space, it kind of shows the level of commitment you have. Because when you're basically going coffee shop to coffee shop, which works for many people and great, but long term, I don't see that being more successful in many different models. And so when I see people having a space, that to me tells me there's a lot of commitment behind this. And so you're more apt to giving value and receiving value.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We actually had our tagline called Sophisticated Community Co-working Space, because that was kind of the mindset. We since then changed it to, like, the mantra is really, let's get your company to the next level. So that's what we're really trying to do. It's not, because when you said sophisticated community, sometimes I'm like, do we have like glasses on? Suits, you know,
it's like, that's not,
I was like, no, I don't want that. So when someone said that, I was like, because it is like
with our cigar
monocles.
And our pipe, pipe and monocle.
We already got a logo for you if you're looking for one.
Reminds me of Ace Ventura.
Yes. You had the winged hair though.
Well, I was going to go with that one too. And then the other part, I think that's why I kind of switched from architecture to co-working, because I think I did have that passion of just helping people. I just hated it. Like, that's why I love going to, like, say, instead of like, I need a fridge, I'm getting a new house, right? Online to me is excruciating, just hard. Like, I just don't know which one's the right deal.
Because there's so
much information. But if you just go to Home Depot, and even though I don't know if this guy knows yes or no, but just even hearing like, this is a great price, and this is a little trick if you do this or this and that. Now I'm just like, thank you. I don't have to spend, because I get in those rabbit holes of looking at the best deals and
I think like Home Depot is one, Best Buy is another one, where you find that employee that knows everything, and they're just like gold, and they're making minimum wage and giving you like advanced college level classes on.
But that's kind of what
whatever in their store.
I think me and Charlie really continued and still want to continue this, because like again, our bread and butter is like, I'm a designer. Marketing kind of in there too, and Charlie's construction. So we don't know how to run a business, or like we never took classes like that. We're kind of
so you're like, let's just bring all the business owners to me. What can we do?
Or was that, or it's just like all those experiences building it up. It was just so lonely that I just don't want anyone to go through that again. Because I might go through another venture, and I hope there is a Thrive where I can be like, all right, so how do we do this again? Because like I'm really in sales and marketing right now, because we're getting bigger. And like Charlie's in the operations and legal and all that non-fun stuff.
And that's the number one theme. I've probably said it before in this podcast, but that I find with entrepreneurs, it's this journey that feels lonely,
Mm-hmm.
but it shouldn't, because there's so many of us out there.
Yeah.
But we're just so isolated because we're on these like little islands of our own, trying to do our own. It's almost an artistic venture, right?
Or you see success stories only for entrepreneurs
Yeah.
on social media.
Yes.
Like, this guy got, and so you think you're doing something wrong, but you're always missing those horror stories, which I'm glad you're doing this podcast, because usually the spotlight's on those big ones that get success, and you never hear
overnight success.
Yeah.
You never hear those horror stories of, like, losing an arm.
Yeah, and then still going.
Literally sometimes.
Literally in some cases. Yeah. So why do you think, and this may be just common sense, common knowledge to everybody, but we love to hear your opinion. What do you feel is the reason why people tend to posture in business and be like, oh, I'm the expert at all times, and not show a lot of vulnerability and need?
So I guess I read a really good book, because, again, like, kind of my story was when I was an architect. This is actually really funny. I remember when I was in architecture in Minnesota, like, usually I work on two big screens for, like, a designer. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate. And so I asked the company, it was like 300 people, like, I need a second monitor. Like, no, can't have a monitor. And I was like, that's weird. 2 weeks later, I was like, I need a monitor. And like, no, I can't. So I brought my own monitor in. Yeah. And the next day, they actually took it away and gave a company-wide memo saying that you can only have one monitor, because if someone has two, then someone will also have two, and then they need to buy 2 monitors for everybody. And I was going like...
That's infuriating.
I'm like, I was just so infuriated by that one little thing.
Yeah.
It's like the red stapler story.
Yeah.
At the office.
And I was so mad about it. I even did a memo to the company back on, like, and that's why I was just like, no, I can do this better. So it's a lot of time when you work for the man, you are kind of a technician, and that's the book called E-Myth Revisited. I think that's a really solid book for someone starting out. Okay. I love that book, because it talks about you're a technician, you can do it better, and you probably can do it better, but then you have to become a manager and an entrepreneur at the same time.
Absolutely.
So the worst part, though, is you're basically creating a job for yourself, right? And that's what a lot of people kind of get into. But I really think it starts with, I can do it better. And then you understand kind of the limitations, or like how companies do that, but you still have that experience to make it better.
Yeah.
It's just now you have to, like, do all the stuff to make it bigger business, kind of go out of it.
Yeah.
I think I am.
So the posturing, where does that come in? Like, how do you think people kind of feel like...
Describe the posturing part for me.
So posturing, like, going to that networking meeting and stabbing a bunch of cards, but not actually looking for what you need and say, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Could you help me? Right?
Oh, so, like, just starting a business, like, am I doing networking?
I think it's any time in business,
just
really.
Pretending that you know everything about your industry.
Yeah, so it's almost like my brother's favorite is Perception's 9/10 of the Law, and then the other one is, like, Fake it till you make it. And that was been kind of, like, taught, I think, when we were young. Like, that's just what, successful people do.
Okay.
So we kind of went through that, too. There's times where we kind of put that on there, but nothing makes you feel better, though, saying, I don't know, to people that you can probably trust.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, too, is you can't just go into a networking event and raise your hand, I don't know. You start making those relationships.
It's a little hard to be like, hey, client, sign this $10,000 agreement.
Like, I don't know, but okay. But I think really what started for me, and I don't know if I'm answering the question right, but I think it's just getting relationships first and be like, trying to just get out there as much as you can, because a lot of the times when I thought a networking event wasn't going to do me anything, and then there's a networking event that I thought was like gold, it was when I didn't think I got something really legit out of it, and when I thought I was going to go like a CoWorking network event, I got nothing out of it. So it's very weird that way. So, but yeah, you just kept going networking, and then I felt I could be like, you know what, I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
But
cool.
From kind of a trusted group. Is that kind of...
No, I think it's very helpful. And, I feel like there's a lot of energetic kind of presence when it comes to walking into a room and you come in with basically no agenda, right? A lot of people walk into rooms with agendas of like, oh, I'm the expert, I know what I'm doing, come and be my client in a way. And then there's people that walk into the room with no expectations, just to build a relationship. Yeah. And it's really a door open to vulnerability. And so when I see, now I'm from the coaching, consulting, public speaker world, a lot of ego in that area. And I've met so many successful people, I even spoke on their stages. And talking to them on the backstage, they're just like, we're not making money, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And I'll offer my services or be like, I can refer you to other services. Be like, no, we're not going to get a business coach. We're not going to get a consultant. We're not going to get a CFO, right? And it's just like, wait.
So you want to start a business.
Because it's an administrative vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to see that problem. So in like a co-working environment you have here at Thrive, it sounds like you have more people that have more of a door open for vulnerability.
Yeah, because I feel like you got to a point. It's not like if you go to networking where there's no commitment or anything, but there's expectations, But at Thrive, it's like people are here for business, and we're very diverse too, which I can get into. But then because of there's no expectations, you have a little bit easier approachment. Or you even have us to be like, hey, like this guy doing this. I'm like, oh yeah, let me introduce you. And now all of a sudden, boom. And that's
so you're part matchmaker.
Kind of,
part
yeah.
Part landlord.
It's almost if you could think, you go into a network event and you know the main guy.
Yeah.
And the main guy has like 2 people that you should talk to. That's kind of I feel like the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of going there blindly.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So what was your biggest failure in business?
Oh, geez, failure?
Yeah. Biggest pitfall, downfall,
on the topic
humiliation.
of
Yeah, now that we opened you up.
I thought you were going to say, I feel like you were going to ask me this, but now my head goes blank again. Like, what's the biggest failure?
Or maybe the biggest lesson that you learned.
I'm seeing that.
Because the other key that I want to point out is that you did have big obstacles, but you kept going, and you kept going. So you went from one place, you got 2, and then you're expanding out. And a lot of people will hit these big roadblocks and then just quit.
Yeah.
So what's like...
I don't know if this is the biggest one, but it's kind of a good example. So when co-working first kind of started for Denver, for us anyway, like 2010 was kind of there was like 4 or 5, and we were one of the OGs, I like to call them. Right?
Yeah.
So then when we were expanding, we were like, okay, let's do after Cherry Creek. Then I talked about that. We're going to do a ballpark. We wanted to be downtown because at the time it was like you have to be in urban markets. We're like, we can't go suburb, we'll die.
Yeah.
So we have to be downtown. So then when we said, hey, we're going to do this building, they're like, oh, okay, well, it's going to take this much money to do. We're like, as architects, contractors, like, no. We'll do the core and shell, which really means like elevators and sprinklers, not the TI, the tenant improvement money where you put in the furniture and stuff. So we thought, hey, let's do that. So we did. We got the first floor all done. Nice. It was great. And then we were going to do the lower level, which was in the garden level. But then we had to resubmit the plans again, and then all of a sudden the reviewer was like, you have to fire sprinkler the whole building.
Yeah.
And so we fought, and we even had 2 code experts saying you're good, architects stamped it saying you're good. Nope, city said you have to fire sprinkler it. So that was an extra, 300, whatever, much money. So that really hurt. But then Denver started increasing taxes, and then so all of a sudden you're just getting hit and hit and hit.
Yeah.
So it's just like, so it's just kind of one of those, you have to kind of take those punches, but we always figured it out some way.
Yeah, so how did you overcome that? What did you do to...
Because
that's a huge barrier.
It is a huge barrier. So, go back to our investors, we went to the SBA loan, it was a combination of that and our own equity we had to put up.
And really just the knowledge that it's going to work. Because going to an extra almost probably $500,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have some, what do you call it? Some knowledge, some passion that it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when we looked at it, we were, using our knowledge base and expertise to really make it work. But within that, it was a bummer, and we didn't really, because again, we had it all buttoned up. We thought there was no way.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you just start calling people. And then we actually even had Thrive, so then we even talked to our members.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun too. It's even for us, it's like, hey, does anyone Peter Has with Rocky's Venture Club was like, all right, let's figure this out. And he was there at ballpark that day, and I could just be like, what do we do? And he kind of guided me through there. So it was nice.
So you had your own knowledge that yes, this is a good idea, and then you also had the backing of your community that said,
kind of say I'm not crazy.
This is a great idea. Let's keep going. So there was that support structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So if there's one thing, one tip, or one quote, something that you like to share to anyone who's listening where they're just feeling like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and I don't know if I can make this work, what would you tell them?
Ooh, good question. I feel like you told me this and now I'm blanking on it again. What's like the one tip?
Something you would say to them.
I would say try to reach out for a network, kind of like specific. It could be specific or not specific, but like a group or a network, so you can start asking these questions like, hey, like, CoWorking would be a great one, or Rocky's Venture Club, or any co-working space in general, as long as they have the same mentality. Mm-hmm. But just to get out there so you don't feel alone, because I feel like once you feel alone, you don't have any resources to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's where you start assuming things, or you just
get lost in the story.
Just don't get lost, or you don't even try because you're like, that would be too hard, and then you'd be like, no, it's not too hard. You just need this link.
Yeah.
You need that person.
Right.
So you need that connector almost in the business world. So like me, it took a while to find like a group of architects, even of like-minded people. So I think just those centers, like if he's in a networking group, a co-working space, for a lot of those freelancers and entrepreneurs, we got Founder Institute is an early stage accelerator that we're partners with. They're all doing virtual right now. I think they're launching very soon, though, if not already.
Cool.
Okay. But we sponsor that. So that's like Boot Camp 101. So they usually have day jobs, and it's like 14 weeks of our curriculum, and we really like push it down. That's one option. That's like kind of you have to pay to get in. It's like $1,100 kind of thing.
Nice.
But
not bad for an education.
Because I think when you first start out, a lot of people don't. You're just so passionate about kind of like your technician job or how to improve it, but you really don't take that time for a business plan. Maybe you need a little CFO in there. Maybe you need like a website. You're like, oh God, how do I do that? You usually do the free ones that look like poop, or you don't take advantage of the SEO and all that kind of stuff. So you just kind of need that center or that place to kind of get those references that you feel a little better about.
What I'm hearing is get off your island and go into a few others.
A little bit, yeah.
Make a colony. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Chad. We really appreciate it. We're definitely going to have Chad here again on the IDK WTF podcast. But hey, where can people find you and kind of check you out?
Yep, so thriveworkplace.com is our website, and that'll have all the 4 locations of pricing and how to get a hold of us. Otherwise, social media, just kind of Google Thrive Workplace, and then you can always just come drop by, just Googling Thrive Workplace. It should show up, and then kind of experience it for yourself.
And if you want to see us, we're here at the Centennial location, which isn't in downtown Denver, which is why I actually prefer it. Honestly, because I don't like
driving parking here.
There is parking here.
There's parking here. Traffic's better. It's just a beautiful area.
We got a roof deck here.
Yeah.
Oh, you do.
Lots of trees.
See that?
We're going to renovate it, though.
Nice.
It's there now.
Oh.
But we're going to make like gas fireplace.
Ooh.
Water feature.
So get in now.
We can go up to it now?
If you're still a member, yes.
He's like, we'll see how this podcast goes. And then we'll see.
It's open to the public, too. Or for the building, I should say.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're very excited.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, Chad.
Yeah,
for having us.
Appreciate you.